This video is sponsored by Reflex. In technology, there is a concept called tick-tock. No, not the world-bending social media platform. Instead, the idea of a product cycle, generally yearly, that offers improvements in a non-linear fashion. In other words, product progression that instead of offering jumps in quality annually, will make a big step forward one year, then revise and refine the model for the subsequent year, before returning and improving at a greater rate for the following year, and then back to a small bump, and so on and so on. Cars have had this concept for years now, typically called facelifts. The idea is that sure, the new model is a new model, but that entails slight tweaks or revisions and sometimes a new set of headlights instead of a complete platform change, before making way for a whole new model after that. In mobile tech, this has been a thing for a long time as well. Most famously, Apple has been doing this practically since the beginning of the iPhone. But somewhere along the way, that stopped, and seemingly without any real reason. So, what on earth happened to the S? It's hard at the moment to really get a sense of progression in the smartphone market, like everything feels like a mush. We're steadily moving forward, but it's difficult to tell products and features apart. At least that's the impression that I get after talking to friends and family who aren't necessarily enthusiasts but do view the smartphone landscape. And that, I think, is down to a couple of things happening at the same time. This video is sponsored by Reflex. If you're like me, you're constantly taking photos on your smartphone, but not always the most artistic ones. Some are duplicates, blurry shots, random snaps you forgot about. Now, you also know that I'm not the biggest fan of AI for creative work, but as a sorting tool, well, that's where it gets interesting. Enter Swipe, a smart AI-powered app built to help you clean up and organize your photo library. Swipe helps manage a busy camera roll by identifying your best shots and freeing up storage. It analyzes things like leading lines, clarity, and image quality, ranking each photo to help you quickly decide what's worth keeping and what can actually go. Two features I found especially useful are the similar photo grouping and the AI photo scoring. Swipe automatically clusters near identical photos, making it super easy to spot and delete duplicates. All in one go, it's a huge time saver. On top of that, it uses smart AI to score each photo's aesthetic quality, helping you instantly identify which shots are actually worth keeping and also sharing. That kind of visual ranking, that's pretty rare to find in any other app on the App Store. Swipe is ideal for anyone dealing with low storage or just overwhelmed by the clutter. It's simple, it's smart, and it gets the job done fast. You can find the download link in the description in the pinned comment below. And a big thanks to Reflex for sponsoring today's video. Firstly, and perhaps most bluntly or importantly, hardware is straight up just not improving at the same rate that it was 10 years ago. Smartphones have matured, the tech has grown to a point now where it's actually a lot harder to make a 50 to 100% jump than what was possible when we knew less and hadn't developed as much. And this is obvious to see in a lot of areas, not just smartphones, but you'll see stuff like performance increases on graphics cards, for example. It's generally not a transformative jump year on year, and that's something you feel and see when you're shopping for a smartphone as well. I mean, just look at the past couple of generations of Pixel, iPhone and Galaxy Ultra. They're almost identical to their predecessors in many ways. Gimmick features aside, it's actually rather hard to tell them apart. But why, you might ask? The tick-tock concept goes that these would be obvious S upgrades, facelifts if you will. And you might be right, but outside of that external aesthetic difference, these have been very similar to the generations before that, and yet for a few years, the S model really hasn't been a thing, or at least on paper. Xiaomi's S, Apple's S, OnePlus's T, and so on, aren't what you'll find on the online stores these days despite their almost prolific attendance around the time of the pandemic actually. And I believe that that has a psychological effect on how consumers view these products. It's been evident for a little while, at least to those with a keen eye, that we aren't making the progress we once were, but to the layperson they might see an iPhone 6, a 6S and a 7 and feel like the 6S is simply a facelift, a minor improvement. And when buying a phone you almost want to wait for that full number upgrade. You'll miss out on that big jump, perhaps even a redesign for the next one. The S suffix almost feels like a put-off, and as a company who trades in selling products, you can start to see why this might not be the best idea from a business perspective. The iPhone XS was the last S refresh on paper for the iPhone, and though we have a OnePlus 13S, it's not a facelift type upgrade, but instead the S just stands for small and it's a more compact version of the OnePlus 13. something that makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but when you think about what the S has meant as a suffix in the last few years, it starts to confuse things a little bit, not to mention that phone is not available in some regions and available in others. This might be the cynic coming out in me, and that seems to happen a lot more these days, unfortunately, but I believe that once you remove the visible structure of the number, and then the S, then the new number, and so on, you basically start to muddy the waters and make it really hard to see where the upgrades are and when to choose a new phone, deliberately almost playing with your mind to put you off in the hopes that you'll just buy a new phone because it's new and shiny with an explicit new number. And given just how expensive smartphones have become, something I don't totally disagree with by the way, the implications of making a buying decision just a lot more murky doesn't make for great optics in my opinion. For me, this also coincides with the recent rush of software upgrades launching with each new model. And though yes, I know some software features do require certain hardware to run, not all of them do, and actually quite a few don't. So though there have been some good updates to older phones that grandfather in new features, there are certainly things that these companies have been deliberately reserving for new models or certain SKUs that could have quite easily been brought to your expensive 18-month-old phone, but just simply haven't. Whether that be the log to the S23 Ultra, ADME to the Pixel 8 Pro, or pro camera software tools that Google locked behind the Pro model of the Pixel 8, even though the Pixel 8 base model ran the same processor, had the same main and ultra wide cameras. They forced you to pay for the more expensive model with the same hardware and the same version of Android just so you got those pro features, and that's not a good look. But perhaps the most egregious example of where an S would have made a lot of sense is with the iPhone 15 Pro and 16 Pro, because not only did Apple lump on a poorly thought out and executed camera control slider touchpad thing to the new model just to get you to buy an almost identical phone, but they made the screen slightly bigger and the bezels slightly smaller, and you couldn't even run the same case when you upgraded year on year. That's something you just have to laugh at this point, making such a small change that you just couldn't use the same case. I don't think we'll ever see a return to the S model because it doesn't help sell phones, and that is the bottom line for these companies whether you agree or not. Phone companies aren't your friend, and purposely handicapping their sales is certainly not on the agenda for today. When we lost the S model, I think we lost a bit of the structure that helped us as consumers decide when to upgrade or not. It muddied the waters and made it hard to see where the progress was really coming from, and after how long to trade up to a new model. I don't think us moving away from this naming concept was really a good thing because under the bonnet, the concept is still there, it's just harder to see now.